The New Soccer Ball, run by Rebecca Hughes, illustrated by Jimmy Tijia. First question: how does Mamadou's feelings about immigrating to the United States change throughout the story? So at first, Mamadou felt unsure, but after making some new friends, he started to feel okay about immigrating to the United States. What's to know? Continent, trouble, exchange, experiences, faucet, fufu, horror, refugee, sword. A special present. Mamadou is time for breakfast. Mrs. Mutangi called in French. It is a birthday present for you. Mamadou ran into the kitchen and saw a shiny new soccer ball on the table. He smiled, jumping up and down with excitement. Can I take the ball to school with me, please? Asked Mamadou. Of course, Mrs. Mutangi said, but be careful with it. At school, Mamadou put his soccer ball under his desk. After morning lessons, he quietly tapping the ball with his foot to make sure it was still there. Finally, it was recess time. Mamadou grabbed the ball and ran outside. He drove over to his friend Omar, and he started passing the ball back and forth. So it was Mamadou's favorite sport. Since arriving in the United States and starting school 2 months ago, he had played soccer every day during recess. One classmate, Omar, always played with him. Omar's friend Lee was from Senegal, so he knew better than anyone how Mamadou felt. He went to many other immigrant kids at his new school, and everyone here called the sport soccer. Back home, he and his friends called it football. Mamadou wondered why American football wasn't called handball because players used their hands more than their feet. English was such a new, strange language. Mamadou was still getting used to it and to everything in his new home. But when he played soccer with Omar, he felt comfortable in this new school. Lost and found. Halfway through recess, Mamadou accidentally kicked his ball to another group of students. One and Jacob grabbed Mamadou's ball and kicked it hard. Mamadou watched in horror as the ball soared over the high fence. It landed in the field outside the playground. The other kids exchanged nervous looks while Jacob laughed and ran off. As Mamadou felt tears coming, Omar put a hand on his shoulder. Let's go tell the teacher, Omar said. He kept his hand on Mamadou's shoulder as they walked back into their classroom, where Mrs. Rose was preparing for the afternoon lessons. What happened? Asked Mr. Rose when he saw them. Mamadou couldn't find the right words in English, so he looked at Omar. Jacob kicked Mamadou's new soccer ball over the fence. Omar said, Oh no, said Mr. Rose. I'm sorry that happened. Let's go retrieve your ball, and I'll talk to Jacob. Mr. Rose walked outside with Omar and Mamadou. Jacob was sitting at the picnic table, looking grumpy. The vice principal, Mrs. Marquez, stood next to him with her hands on her hips. Omar showed Mr. Rose where the ball had landed. Okay, boys, why don't you get Mamadou's ball back? He smiled at them and unlocked the gate. Omar was surprised. As he and Mamadou walked carefully through the field, Omar whispered, Kids aren't usually loud over here. He smiled at Mamadou, who smiled back. Mamadou was so relieved to have his ball back. He held it close while the two boys walked back to Mr. Rose, who was talking to Miss Marquez. Mamadou, would you be willing to talk to Jacob? Mrs. Marquez asked. Mamadou looked at Omar, who translated what Mrs. Marquez had said into French, so it was easier for him to understand. Mamadou was nervous to talk to Jacob, but he nodded his head. An understanding. Mamadou sat down at the picnic table next to Omar and across from Jacob, who still looked grumpy. Mr. Rose and Miss Marquez sat down too. Jacob, kicking Mamadou's ball over the fence was not okay. Do you know why you did that? Mr. Rhodes asked. Jacob just shrugged. You ever think of a time when something did something like that to you? Did something where you were using? Jacob was quiet for a moment. Mamadou glanced at Omar, who smiled reassuringly at him. Finally, Jacob spoke. My big brother always steals my tablet and hides it, he said. How does it make you feel when he does that? Mr. Rose asked. Mad, Jacob answered. So how do you think Mamadou felt when you kicked his ball over the fence? Mr. Rose asked. Jacob shrugged. Probably mad. Mr. Rose turned to Mamadou. Mamadou, how did it feel when Jacob kicked the ball over the fence? Omar translated the question into French for Mamadou. Mamadou replied in English. I did not like it. Mr. Rose patted his shoulder. See, Jacob, nobody likes them when their things are taken away. We've all had bad experiences like that. Just because someone does something mean to you doesn't mean you can be mean to someone else. I'll have you come inside with me for the rest of recess today and tomorrow. You'll help me get ready for our science lessons this week. Mamadou watched Mr. Rose and Jacob walk back inside. Miss Marquez turned to Mamadou and Omar. You two have about 5 more minutes of recess, she told them. Come on, race it to the tree over there. Omar said to Mamadou as he jumped up. Mamadou was happy to follow, holding his soccer ball close as he sprinted across the field after his friend, but Mamadou would lose. At home later that day, Mamadou thought about what Mr. Rose had said. Just because someone is mean to you doesn't mean you can be mean to someone else. His sister Luz found him staring out a window. Are you okay? She asked in French. Sometimes I miss home a lot, Mamadou said. He was grateful to be able to speak in his home language. It made missing home feel a little less bad. Me too. My day at school? Luz asked. Mom told his sister what happened with Jacob, and my summer had been, and what Mr. Rose had said. I just miss my friends, Mamadou said, finishing his story. He thought of playing soccer with his friends. The soccer balls they had at the refugee camp were old and flat. When the lady took a talk to his friends while they all played together. I miss some things too, said Luz. Instead of moving to a completely different continent, but there are a lot of things better about living in the United States than a refugee camp in Zimbabwe. Remind me, said Mamadou, looking up at her. Oh, for one thing, our parents worked hard to get out of the Congo. It wasn't safe there. There was a lot of fighting, and our family left for many years. They weren't born yet, but I remember the long journey from our hometown to the camp. We started in Zambia, where we found a friend in Lusaka to give us a ride to Zimbabwe. I'd never gone so fast in the car before. There was so much wind, Luz said, remembering. And another thing, we go to a much better school here, Luz said. The school in Zimbabwe was far from home. There was no bus. It took us over an hour to walk there. And sometimes when we arrived, there were no teachers. Our parents brought us here to go to school and have a better life. We're lucky to be here. But instead of missing home, I try to be grateful. I don't feel very lucky or grateful right now, Smallby, finally and thinking about his friends back home. But after a moment, he went on. I guess I am grateful we have electricity all the time. My kitchen faucet works, like the one we used to have. I'm also grateful that Mom and Dad have jobs here, so soon we can get a car and maybe a computer. I really like having a bed to sleep in and a TV to watch. And that'll be one friend. But the best part is we don't have to eat beans anymore, and we get to eat fufu all the time. Also, fufu is the best. Now you're making me hungry, Luz laughed. Come on, let's have make dinner. A new news night. The next day, Mamadou took his soccer ball to school again. It was feeling much better after talking with his sister. At recess, he and Omar passed the ball back and forth. About halfway through recess, a few of the other kids came over and asked to play with them. Omar helped everyone divide into teams and set up goals. It was the best day he had at his new school. He scored 2 goals. By the time the teacher blew the whistle at the end of recess, Mamadou had high-fived 3 of his new classmates. He was feeling grateful, like Luz had said last night. As he settled back into his classroom, Jacob shuffled up to him. Mamadou was anxious, but Mr. Rose was there too. Jacob would like to say something to you, Mr. Rose said. It's hard to carry your ball yesterday, Jacob said. I won't do it again. Mamadou was crying for a moment, translating Jacob's words in his head. The Mamadou nodded and said, Okay, thank you. Jacob held out his hand and Mamadou shook it. Omar flashed Mamadou a thumbs up from his desk. Things were going to be okay. They weren't perfect, but Mamadou was grateful that he didn't have to figure everything out all at once. He was grateful for a lot of things. His teacher and his family, his new friends, and of course, his new soccer ball.
Good job!